मेरे को ये भी नहीं दिखा मैं कैसे लूँ। A very warm good morning to one and all present here today. I, Aarti Mehla, the PG Placement Secretary, Institute of Agriculture Sciences, Banaras Hindu University, welcome you all to the TEDxAGRO. Our topic for today is supply chain challenges on fruits and vegetables. In the recent decades, the food supply chain has grown rapidly with the consumers now expecting exotic foods and fresh on their plates year round. This has extended the supply chain geographically and across many more parties, making the supply chain longer and more complicated than ever. If the things were not complicated enough, the global shutdown caused by multi-year COVID-19 pandemic further stressed supply chains, shutting down many restaurants and food services supply chains, while increasing the pressure on retail chains direct to consumers food deliveries. While we cannot do much to resolve pandemics and global political conflicts, we can address the major challenges that are endemic and persistent in the food supply chain. So, as the time is running, so I would like to invite our training and placement in charge, Professor VK Chandola sir, to kindly introduce our guest for the today's session. Over to you, sir. Sure, sir. Yes, sir, the rights has been shared. You can present now. Thank you. बहुत जाते हैं. Yes, sir. The screen is visible now.
Years now. But most of them, like Khetse Banana exited, Field Press exited of the major. So it is a difficult business. So companies come and go. Sticking to it is a challenging job. Now, challenge number three: processing capacity. India is amongst the world's largest producer in several fruits and vegetables. Yet insignificant volumes are processed. Most of the produce is consumed in the fresh form. So how it's going to impact? Basically, see, India is number one producer in mango. We are also number one in banana and number two in potato as well as tomato. Of course, number one in okra also. In terms of volume, we are second only to the China in terms of value as well. However, if you look at the China is almost three times larger than us. So somewhere there is still a gap in catching up with China. Low levels of processing in fruits and vegetables. We process just about 2% of what we produce. Similarly, our exports are less than 2.5% of world exports. In sectoral part, if you look at F&B processing value addition part of it, it is lesser than even poultry, meat, milk, or fisheries. Just about 2%. In milk, it is about 38% now. Even fisheries is 26%. So processing side, also fruits and vegetables has got very, very little value addition. Now, just looking at this, if you look at say mango processing, only three things comes to our mind: slice, maja, and fruity. There's some data that maja is the biggest, then comes a fruity, slice, and others. So consumers also do not have much of the choice because we don't do a lot of processing activity. But if you look at the kind of products that can be produced out of mango, there is a plethora of products that actually we can produce out of mango processing. And just because our food habits are not oriented to that way, one side there is a wastage of raw material. The other side there is deprivation of products to the consumer, which can be utilized around the year. Challenge number four: post-harvest management. We can produce anything that is produced anywhere in the world, but our post-harvest losses are very high. Some of the data, like the CPET study, states that we lose about 31,000 crores that every year from FNB, which is to an extent of 18% losses. And of these, potato, tomato, and banana alone contributes to about 63%. There are other studies by Chara and Parekh also, which states that it ranges from 10 to 37%. So the losses are high, which means we need to put up post-harvest practices in places by the farmers. They have to adopt these post-harvest practices and manage the harvest. Because something is already produced, but still we lose it out. Cold chain capacity, 95% of fruits and vegetables are consumed in raw form and moved in raw form. The percentage movement of FNB through cold chain is negligible, while in US it's around 80-85%. In Thailand it is 30 to 40%. Now look at the cold chain. Reefer transport is about the total perishable that is transported is 104 million metric ton, but out of this only 4 million metric ton of perishable is transported by cold chain. Just about 4% of the perishable is transported in cold chain. So what are the issues? There are no end-to-end cold chain available because last connecting mile is not available. There are temperature shocks which deteriorates faster. There are additional cost load, return trips are not available. On the cold store front, more than 7,000 cold stores are available with capacity. Now it's about 35 million metric ton capacity. However, only 75% is utilized for only for potato. Potato is transported in ambient but stored in cold. Similarly, the distribution is very skewed, and these are skewed only to UP and West Bengal. 60% of the potato cold stores are available only in UP and West Bengal. Now, what are the major cold chain gaps that you have? The first mile connecting infrastructure, there's a gap. And the last mile connecting infrastructure, also there's a major gap. The number of pack houses that are supposed to be there for the first mile connectivity is estimated to be around 70,000. However, available pack houses are just about 250 to 300. Cold store space, which I said about 35 million metric ton requirement is there. That much is available, but as I said earlier, these are skewedly distributed and utilized largely only for the potato. The reefer vehicle requirement is about 62,000, available is 10,000. So there is also a gap in the transportation segment of it. Now, many of the people easily recommend eliminate the middleman or delayer the supply chain. But in reality, it is difficult to delayer it because as an organized player, you actually do not bring any efficiency to the table against the unorganized competition. So that's a bigger challenge that how you actually distribute. How you, can you actually eliminate the middleman? Or can the middleman play a different role? Now, this is the kind of middleman's role that you have. A formal organization tends to bring in additional costs. The middleman is able to provide multiple services for inputs, outputs, credit, logistic, and technical guidance. But these operations which small vendors give, they find it very difficult to replicate it. So their models are also not replicable. Therefore, organized players tends to lose for the region of organization. They are not that much flexible. The decision making is not agile as against the competition. So they find it difficult to compete with the unorganized player. Each of the commodity in F&B have different storage and transportation requirement. Do we have that kind of required infrastructure to handle this? Like if you look at in a normal cold storage, you can store for 4 or 5 months. Like apples can be stored till up to say December. But beyond December, if you want to store apples, then you have to store in a CA facility. CA is what is called a controlled atmosphere. In a controlled atmosphere situation, you have to bring down the carbon dioxide level, increase the carbon dioxide and reduce the oxygen content of it and increase the nitrogen level. So, which basically intended to to reduce the respiration activity, thereby oxidation rate is lowered, and that helps to improve the shelf life. So, in a CA store, you can store up to 10 months. So apple can be stored in CA store till up to say March or April, because apple is one season crop which starts arrival of which starts or stores get filled up by September onwards. And then what are the issues around apple? Apple is grappling with CA storage capacity. See, 17 lakh metric ton is production in J&K, but storage availability was just about 70,000 metric ton. Similarly, Himachal produces about 7 lakh metric ton with a storage capacity of 53,000. So the capacity constraint has been a constraint for the apple industry. Poor road condition, standardization in packaging, standardization on grading. So these are some of the issues the industry is grappling with. Now, market infrastructure. We boast of servicing about 70 crore farmers through a network of 6,615 APMC market yards, of which currently the ENAM connected is 1,000 plus, and 22,000 rural periodic market, popularly in Eastern India, they call it as a HARTS. We see large quantity of wholesale still taking place in the wholesale on the highways without any infrastructure. Now, these are the kind of pictures that you find even today in India, where wholesaling is done on the roadside without much of infrastructure and with a very high level of aggregation, manual aggregation and manual involvement. So these have the issues around main material risk, main material and money risk. There are no food safety standards, not well managed, hygiene standards, and the case safety as well. Most transactions take place on the case. Price discovery complexity. On a single day, we checked up the prices of a single item, brinjal, across 54 markets and found out that price range from 40 rupees to 4 rupees to 40 rupees. So there are micro supply demand dynamics with respect to variety, arrival, mean model prices. The supply chain stability, the arbitrage, and then exercise on continuous basis is here on the unpredictability of prices. So these kind of aberrations exist in India, and it is also because of the restrictions that every state imposes on APMC or the movement of these fruits and vegetable items, local taxation, which at one point of time was suspended, and now it's again APMC is back on a state-wise level. Price discovery process itself varies differently in different markets. Some of the markets they go ahead with the outcry Boli method. Others sit on a high desk and shout the prices. There are some places where it is fed also electronically. Many places there are below the handkerchief transactions. And some places it is also the negotiation mode in which the prices are discovered. So there are multiple, there are no standard way in which price discovery mechanism is rolled out. Challenge number 9, farmers earning. A farmer has to buy all input seed, fertilizer, micronutrient, pesticide from retail in MRP. But when he is to sell his produce, he has to sell in wholesale and even at a unknown auction price. Whatever auction price comes, he has to accept that. And farmer is vulnerable because he has to carry all his goods to a local APMC yard, and because these are most of these are perishable, he cannot even store it or wait for the next day to get a better price. So he has to basically dispose of at a price, or he is basically at a mercy of what the auction's price prevailing at that point of time, despite the cost that the cost could have gone up or down. Now, this is one of the reason also is there's a lack of planning that we leads to the uneven supply. The acreage, how much acreage is supposed to be sown is not controlled. If for a farmer, he always feels tempted to sow more because he got a better earnings the previous year. Similarly, if he's got less earning, next year he'll sow less. So actually, we do not have a formal or any informal planning mechanism that controls the sowing, extent of sowing. So you always find it difficult. The one side there is a excess, the other side there are protests because of the high price. Farm productivity, India is only second only to China in terms of tomato production. But when it comes to productivity, we don't even stand among the top 30 countries. India is 79 times bigger than Netherlands, but its F&B export is 7 times higher. Netherlands exports 7 times higher than what India exports. So even then a small country which has got very high productivity, they are able to have more export than what India does. Look at the tomato productivity. Spain has about close to 90 metric ton per hectare, US 88 metric ton per hectare, China 56, and India is just what is about 21 metric ton per hectare, which is less than 10 ton per acre. Even the state-wise, there is a wide variation. Karnataka produces 34, whereas Odisha produces just 14. So, do we have the technology to offer to our farmers so that we can take the yield up? Or is there a gap in technology transfer mechanism? Brand provides identity and assurance. Therefore, the food brands are mushrooming. But in fruits and vegetables, there are hardly any brands. See, there are a lot of food brands that is available. But in food, actually, we have only two brands, that's Shuffle and Washington apple that you'll find. So this is what the presentation is about. You can let me know your queries so that we clarify some of the doubts that you have in your mind. Okay.
Uh, Good morning, sir. Uh, I would like to ask, like, if these are the problems, then what can be the possible solutions to overcome such problems?
See, these challenges have to be worked one by one aspect. Like each challenge has to be dealt with differently. Like one major challenge is the post-harvest management of fruits and vegetables. Now, till we studied the agriculture, we did not have a post-harvest management course in our the curriculum. But while I was going through Israel, they have a post-harvest department complete dedicated to the UG course where there is a curriculum or there are studies which are happening, and they are recommending processes how a farmer should handle the fruits and vegetable or any other produce. So they don't lose out because the losses are higher. So 18% loss for no reason. Whatever you have produced, you are also losing it out. So that can be a food to for millions who are not getting a square meal a day. Similarly, so these have to be inculcated as a course so that students study it and they are able to provide a solution to the farmers today, because farmers do not know about they do not have awareness around it. These become issues. Now there are cases where you find earlier in say apple industry they were not using boxes for packaging, or they are not grading them, they are not waxing them. So these have come over a period of time, but these has to be more rigorously implemented so that they get the value what they deserve, or it's not just get wastage. The way fruits and vegetables are transported, if you look at your local mandis also, there are no standardization, not much of well organized packaging materials are made. So one aspect is the post-harvest management. Second, as I said, the yield, the productivities in India are extremely low. So we'll have to find ways to increase it. Like we had set up a plant in Jharkhand. So when we landed there in 2014, the yield there was about 8 ton per acre. Now we tried with different methodology, different package of practices, change the seeds. So we could take it up to 50 tons per acre. So it's actually the same acre of land gives a more or better higher return to the farmer if you can take up the yield to a higher level. Sweet corn, which was never grown in Jharkhand, we introduced that, and they started with some 2 tons per acre. Today they have even reached up to 9 ton per acre. It is short duration 85 days crop. So if you are able to make their investment is about 25 to 30,000, and if they are able to get 1 lakh in 3 months, then it's a 3 time returns in just 3 months. So that's why you can actually doubling a farmer has to come if you actually really improve the yield, reduce the losses. And it cannot be just no by price increasing. It's simpler to say they increase the price, increase the MSP, your returns will go up. But that is not much sustainable beyond a point of time. So therefore, uh, we'll have to improve our productivity, reduce our losses. That is sustainable, and even to an extent manage processing and exports. So these are the ways in which we can actually improve our farm or the farmer's income. Thanks. I hope this clarifies you.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
One of my question is what your opinion on where industry of supply chain can use the intellectual power of our students in future, or where we can find our better career options in the particular sector.
See, the starting of the slide, I said ki the industry is still struggling with a 97% unorganized sector. Okay, so that gives the potentially there are a lot things that can be done around it. Now there are many of the startups. There are about 1,100 startups that have pitched in the agri-food sector. So most of them have taken up some one or multiple problems out of the existing situations, and they have been working around with a additional thought of putting up technology into its use. But many a times you find them that their understanding of agri ecosystem itself is not what they most of them are from the technology background, and they are trying hard to find a technological solution to it. So here the students can look at possibility of using technology, combining the technology. See, there are digital and physical part of it. The digital aspect can borrow from a tech partner, but physically how it is to be implemented or how you can connect the physical and digital, that's the real challenge which students should look at working around it.